Hello and welcome. You're watching CNBC-TV18 and this is After the Bell. Let's take profit taking in the post-lunch session of the trade clearly saw the benchmark indices ending in the red. So Nifty gave up the 11,500 mark to end close to 0.5% lower. Sensex followed suit to end 0.25% in the red. Broader markets outperformed the benchmark indices, so mid-caps ended about 0.5% in the green, while the bank Nifty closed above the 30,000 mark, and that's for the first time ever to end 0.25% higher. Surbhi Upadhyay is here with a detailed wrap of the day's trading action. Surbhi, consolidation setting in today.
Some last-hour volatility and a day of profit-taking. That's how perhaps you can sum up Wednesday's action. It was all going fine in favor of the bulls till about 1:30, but that's when they decided to throw in the towel. The market has ended at the lows of the day, so that's something that one will have to keep on board. Mid-caps doing slightly better today. The mid-cap index managed some green. Auto stocks once again coming under pressure. However, do remember that it's been a good day for the Nifty Bank. That index still managed to close above the 30,000 mark. Let me now come down to stocks and talk about the big movers and shakers. There's profit taking, as I said, that was very, very apparent and evident. NTPC is something that really stands out. That stock was the biggest loser on the Nifty. HPCL, Reliance and TCS were some of the other names, some of the heavyweights that were leading to the declines today. And as I mentioned, auto, every single auto stock really on the large cap screen, again pressure. Maruti now coming close to the 6,500 level. More profit taking on Eicher Motors, Tata Motors down 2%. So it was really all fall down in the auto pack. Banks were showcasing mixed trends. There was pressure on names like HDFC Bank, on Kotak, even on ICICI Bank. But on the other side of the screen, you had a State Bank of India and a Yes Bank, which had a dream run today with a 5% gain. So fairly mixed on the banking side. Let me now move to the mid-caps. As I said, the screen was green here. There was a 0.5% gain coming in. So let me start with the winners. ICICI Prudential, where one of the existing investors has pared down their stake. That stock was up 9% once the OFS was done. Godrej Properties saw some additional buying, 5% on that stock. Kalpatru Power, Inox Leisure, these were some of the other names. And interestingly, PSU banks had a very good run today. OBC, Allahabad Bank, Union Bank, these were names that were on the upside of the screen, even in the afternoon when the market was falling. Last but not the least, another good day for Shriram Transport Finance. However, now let me talk about the mid-cap losers, because there was also some profit-taking going on. And here, stocks like Jubilant Life come to mind. This is a company that is dealing with some US FDA woes, and that played out on the stock. Dabur, subdued commentary on the volumes front, down about 3% towards close. DLF and Vodafone Idea saw some more pressure today. So fairly mixed trends. Yes, we've seen profit taking. We'll have to see now in the next 2 days whether the bulls can resume their uptrend.
All right, Surbhi, thanks for joining in with that. But let's fly over to the big corporate story this hour. Arun Kumar Purwar, the former chairman of State Bank of India, may be brought in to pilot Jet Airways. Now, this comes days after Naresh and Anita Goyal decided to step down from the board of the cash-strapped airline as a part of the airline's resolution plan. Ritu Singh is here to break this down for us. Ritu, what is the plan of action that the board is likely to take?
Well, the first step will be to appoint a new chairman after Naresh Goyal stepped down from his position as chairman and from the board. We're given to understand that lenders are likely to nominate Arun Kumar Purwar, who remember is the former chairman of State Bank of India, to head Jet Airways. Now, do remember he served as chairman between 2002 and 2006, and after that has held various positions as an independent director across a spectrum of companies. We're given to understand that lenders will be allowed 2 seats on the board, and one of them will of course go to Purwar. The other one could be from a private sector lender. It could be the likes of IDBI Bank or ICICI Bank and Yes Bank, whoever has the largest exposure in that sense. That name is yet to be decided, but even Purwar's own appointment as the chairman of the board will only be ratified once that nod, from the board is done. That, we're given to understand, will only take place once the board meets and approves his name as the next chairman. So this is the next step as far as, the resolution of Jet is concerned. A new interim management committee that will be put in place, as we've been reporting, and a new chairman to be put in place. We also reached out to Mr. Purwar for his comments, but he did not respond to our query.
Okay, we should get something clear in the days to come as far as that announcement is concerned. Thanks, Ritu, for joining in with that. But moving on, just 4 days left for the financial year to end. And we learn that the government is staring at a revenue shortfall of approximately 60,000 crore rupees. Timsi Jaipuria is here with the details. Timsi, how is the government planning to bridge this gap and meet this revenue target?
Well, as you rightly mentioned, slow-paced growth of revenue collections is actually ringing fresh alarm bells for North Block. To be precise, both Revenue Secretary and Finance Minister are taking an update from both the divisions, that is direct taxes and indirect taxes, on a daily basis. Twice a day is what the update is. And what we understand on the collections bit, let me run across some numbers. As on March 25th, the direct tax collections were at about 10.23 lakh crore rupees. Now, this is versus the daunting target of 12 lakh crore rupees, which was the revised estimates presented in the union budget in February. Also, when it comes to GST collections, government is hopeful that the March number should be around 1 lakh crore rupees. But yes, right now the figures do not show a trend towards that. But yes, they are hopeful because government feels that March is the most yielding month of the entire fiscal, and only towards the end is when taxpayers try and do their year-end closing and put in their tax returns. So that is when they feel that the remaining 5 days which are up next are the crucial ones, where when government feels that collections could try and pick up. Also, what we understand when we spoke to government officials as to what could be the revenue deficit number when it comes to not meeting the target which was presented in the union budget, government officials did indicate that both direct and indirect revenues would be lower than the target numbers. But yes, a total revenue deficit from the target numbers is what they feel should be around 1 to 1.5 lakh crore rupees. That is a deficit coming in from both direct and indirect. But yes, nevertheless, the government is very hopeful. So are both the divisions of the tax department, that is direct and indirect. Government officials did say that revenues are slow right now, but they feel that the last few days of the month, that is the 25th to 31st, is when they feel people will put in their returns and they expect revenue collections to pick up. Let's see what happens and how much of a pressure does it put on the fiscal deficit numbers. Back to you.
Okay, Timji, thanks for that. But even with a 60,000 crore rupee tax revenue shortfall, the government seems confident of meeting its fiscal deficit target. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the centre might dip into its savings and public account funds to help meet the deficit aim. Sapna Das, who has been tracking this very closely, is here with the breakdown. Sapna, what are you picking up from your sources?
Well, clearly, what we've been given to understand is that probably the the revenue gap numbers, they'll be scrunched down to somewhere around 60,000 crore levels is what we have been given to understand as of now. Having said that, a two-pronged strategy that the government may be looking at: A, of course, some national savings which are expected on the expenditure side, and second, the option of using funds if required under the public accounts. Let's talk about the expenditure side first. You have a FY19 expenditure budget of close to 25 lakh crores. In fact, 24.57 lakh crores to be precise. So even if you have a national savings, which basically means money that may remain unspent, that could be anywhere in the tune of 1.5 to 2% of the expenditure budget. That's a big number that we are talking about. Mind you, the indication is that not a cut, but probably money remaining unspent. And, to that extent, probably this is an annual feature in the sense that every year some or the other amount of the expenditure budget remains unspent. So in that sense, it could be a national savings for the government. So that again could be a significant amount. The other side, of course, public accounts, you have the National Small Savings Funds and you have the GST compensation cess kitty. Both are part of the public accounts. Borrowings, if required, borrowings against National Small Savings Funds to meet public expenditure is not part of the fiscal deficit calculation. So if required, that is one option that the government may look at in terms of keeping the public expenditure side also going. And if there's some other requirement that comes in, probably that could be one of the options that they may look at. And of course, just as it had been done at the time of the revised estimates of the budget on Feb 1, 29,000 crores was indicated as being taken out from the composition cess kitty to meet the fiscal gap, the revenue shortfall. The same may also be adopted in the sense that amount may be raised slightly. So there are two options that the government may look at. Standard procedure. As of now, the expectation is 3.4%, will remain 3.4% 31st March. The banks have been given instructions to keep working on Saturday and Sunday. Government business has to go on. 3.4 may become 3.422 technically, but still 3.4, and that again could be a big savings for the government.
Okay, so clearly a lot of options that the government has a plan in place to meet that fiscal deficit target. Thanks, Apna, for that. Now, let's move over to Court Corner. Here's the latest in Essar Steel resolution case. The Committee of Creditors is meeting today to look at redistribution of the 42,000 crore rupees deposited by ArcelorMittal. The National Company Law Appellate Tribunal has told the COC that it can't allow only 4% of the bid amount to go to operational creditors. Ashmit Kumar is here with the details. Ashmit, so what does this mean with the COC meeting? Is a solution in sight here?
Well, an important day today. The COC, under the directions of the NCLAT, will be, in fact, is meeting as we speak. They will be, in fact, deliberating upon the mandate that has been given down by the NCLAT, which is to look at redistributing the 42,000 crore Arcelor bid. Now, keep in mind that as of right now, the status quo is that the financial creditors have pocketed about 92% of the 42,000 crore bid. That is something that NCLAT has made its position quite clear. That the NCLAT is uncomfortable with 92% of the share being pocketed by financial creditors and only 4% being left for the operational creditors. In fact, in the same breath, the NCLAT today observed that it's important for the COC to balance the interest of all the stakeholders, also going on to clarify once again that the operational creditors have huge admitted dues and that it's unfair to leave only 4% of the bid for the operational creditors. Now, on the back of that, the lenders made their position clear that the COC will be meeting, that the COC will deliberate upon this issue that has been raised by the NCLAT. Again, let's keep in mind that NCLAT had directed the COC to meet under the NCLT Ahmedabad order, which in fact had advised, had suggested an 85-15% division between the financial and the operational creditors. So that's essentially the formula that the COC will be considering. The next hearing in this case, we understand, will be on April 9th. So all eyes now on the lenders, on the financial creditors, on the COC to formulate a position and to submit that before the NCLAT and to see if there is any redistribution possible or if the NCLAT will intervene on behalf of the operational creditors. Back to you.
Well, India has become the fourth nation to join an elite space power league with its first test of an anti-satellite missile. In an operation called Mission Shakti, India's Defence Research Development Organisation, or the DRDO, used an anti-satellite missile to successfully target a live satellite on a low Earth orbit. The other three nations to achieve this feat are the US, Russia and China. India's ASAT program was publicly acknowledged in 2012, 5 years after China conducted an anti-satellite test. Prime Minister Modi was the one who announced the details of Mission Shakti and said that this was a demonstration of India's military prowess in space and this was necessary for regional peace.
भारत ने आज अपना नाम अंतरिक्ष महाशक्ति स्पेस पावर के रूप में दर्ज करा दिया है। हमारे वैज्ञानिकों ने अंतरिक्ष में, स्पेस में 300 किलोमीटर दूर LEO लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट में एक लाइव सैटेलाइट को मार गिराया है। सिर्फ 3 मिनट में सफलतापूर्वक यह ऑपरेशन पूरा किया गया है।
Well, that was Prime Minister Modi, that much anticipated announcement that was made post-noon. He had spoken of making that announcement at about 11:45, but came much later. To discuss the strategic significance of this achievement, we have with us the former chairman of ISRO, Madhavan Nair. Mr. Nair, I appreciate you joining us here on CNBC-TV18, sir. To start with, if you can explain to us the strategic importance and significance of the development that has been announced by the Prime Minister today. It is our understanding that since 2012, India, the DRDO, has been building this capability. In fact, if I were to quote what the then DRDO chief in 2012, Vijay Saraswat, had said, that we have developed all the building blocks for an anti-satellite capability. So this has been an ongoing process, but today was the first time that this capability was tested. What is the significance of this?
Well, one thing today, India is dependent on the space assets, whether it's low Earth orbiting satellites for the Earth observation or the communication satellites for the broadcasting and the telecommunication and so on. So it has become part and parcel of our life. If anything happens to these space assets, we will be in big danger. So to protect the space assets, we have to think ahead and we have to plan various systems which are required to define our space assets. So today what we have taken is a major one towards that, and we have shown to the world that we have the power to destroy the satellites in case required. Of course, we are not going to do it in the normal routine way.
Yes.
In case a hostile system approaches us, we will have the capability to tackle that, and today is a very, very major breakthrough in technology. Regarding the development of this system,
yes, sir.
Yes, it is a fact that
Go ahead, sir.
Well, regarding the development of the system, the ideas were floating around in 2010 and earlier also, and technologies were developed in bits and pieces. But it is the political will to proceed with such an action was not coming out of the UPA 2. It is the Modi ji government which has taken this initiative and given the clearance for, and within a very short time our scientists have really done it and demonstrated that we have a powerful anti-satellite weapon with us.
Okay, let me just pick up on the point that you mentioned, sir, because again I'm looking at the history of the use of the ASAT, and we're given to understand that the US and the Soviet Union both tested the anti-satellite missiles even far back as the 1970s. But this has never been used by any country, and there is a treaty that governs the use of ASATs as well. So this is largely a deterrent that India has now put in its arsenal.
We are bound by the international treaty under the United Nations Convention, and as per that, the space should not be used for weaponization or for military purposes. So if we take that message, certainly we don't need this. But we cannot rule out the possibility at a later time and date some country can misuse the space assets or even try to tamper with our space assets. So in such cases, we should have a good deterrent with us. Then only we can withstand such pressures from outside.
And again, for the benefit of our viewers who are watching, sir, this would, because it wasn't made clear by the Prime Minister in his speech today. So technically, when such a test happens, it is and I would imagine a decommissioned satellite, a decommissioned Indian satellite that would have been targeted by the DRDO today.
Certainly, of course, when the Chinese did this in the mid-10s, that is about 2008 or so, the whole global community was against them because they had blasted a dead satellite around 600-kilometer orbit, and it has created nearly 10,000 dead objects in space, which becomes a threat to other satellites. But whereas India has planned it very carefully, we have, as per my understanding, we have a satellite which was launched for the defense application, and its purpose is served. This was put in a low Earth orbit around 300 kilometers, and this experiment was conducted at 300 kilometers. At this altitude, of course, first of all, there are not many operational satellites in this region. Secondly, all the debris will be washed off or virtually come back to Earth within the next few months. So that way we have done a very safe and comfortable experiment without affecting any other satellites.
You know, one of the concerns, since you raised the issue of debris, one of the concerns, and I go back to an interview that Mr. Saraswat had done, where he said that India will not test this capability through the destruction of a satellite. Such a test risked showering lethal debris in space that could damage existing satellites. Instead, India's ASAT capability would be fine-tuned through simulated electronic tests. So one, of course, is the issue of political will, but there seems to have also been this other consideration that weighed on the DRDO's mind itself, and perhaps that is why they chose to take the simulated testing option, which hasn't been the case today.
Well, I think it's not exactly a simulation, so to say. It is actually live wire situation.
No, I'm talking about the past. I'm saying that what we were doing up until now, if I go by what we have seen from Mr. Saraswat's previous comments, he seemed to suggest that because of the concerns around debris in space, that India was fine-tuning its capability through simulated electronic tests. And of course, so today is a departure from what was the process and the decision then.
This is where the innovative solution has been brought by ISRO and DRDO scientists. They have launched a medium-sized satellite in a low Earth orbit, which will not be having any harmful effect for other satellites or our own systems, and demonstrated at that level. From there to go to any altitude is a very straightforward extrapolation, and we can really achieve it. So we have really demonstrated the whole system. In the simulation, always we can show and it will be 100% success. But in practical life, there are so many hurdles. We have to, first of all, determine the position of the satellite very precisely, its course, and then have the guidance and navigation system in such a way that we can precisely reach the satellite at a future location based on the real-time computation on board. So this requires development of extensive software and validation, and the actual test proof of the pudding comes only by live wire test. And we have done it now without any negative effect.
Okay, so just going back to the point that you made about the widespread international condemnation that came China's way after an ASAT test that was carried out by China, do you believe that given the position that India has taken, Prime Minister Modi, of course, continued to say during the course of his speech that this was a defensive move, it was aimed at securing, our space infrastructure, and that our position on weaponization of space does not change. So do you believe that there could potentially be an international reaction, the kind that China saw, or you don't believe that will be the case?
I don't think so, because other nations very well understand this kind of scenario. But the main point is we have done this experiment very carefully to avoid disturbance to any operational satellite or any foreign space assets.
Oh, so before I let you go, Mr. Nair, you were talking about the significant shift this has been as far as technology is concerned. You called it a breakthrough, and this is a significant deterrent, as you pointed out, in our quest to secure our space assets. But we now enter this elite league of four nations. What do you believe will be the big takeaway for countries like China, Russia and the US on the back of this test that we've carried out today?
Well, they have already demonstrated such capability, and I don't think they are going to be taking any negative attitude towards us. Only thing is our position and the respect towards India will grow among the foreign nations.
All right, so we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for explaining to our viewers what Mission Shakti means and the implications of it. Thanks very much for your time, Madhavan Nair there of ISRO. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of After the Bell. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18 Markets Today. Talk Back is up next. We'll see you again shortly.